So before kicking off this event, I just wanted to point out that most presentation will be held in French. So if ever you want to have an interpretation of the presentations, please get yourself an earphone for the translation interpretation, which are provided at the entry of this room. Thank you for coming to this event for Smart Building Alliance in Luxembourg. And I'd like to ask you now, raise your hands for all those who have already heard from the SBA. So 50% approximately have heard of it, have heard of us. That's not bad. So this presentation will be twofold. In the first step, I'll talk about structuring, and in the second, we'll talk about the feedback, and we'll talk about some of our employees at the SBA. And then we'll set up an interactive workshop. And if you ever have questions, if you want to intervene or ask questions during this workshop, you're welcome to do so. So let's go for the first presentation. So I'm Mickaël Pascual. I'm project manager with NeoBuild, which is one of the pioneers of sustainable building in Luxembourg. And I'm also general secretary of the SBA, which is the Smart Building Alliance in Luxembourg, for smart cities, that is. So let's trace back to the roots of the SBA. So it's a young business, has been created in 2022, and is a joint initiative of the SBA France, which has been founded in 2012, and Smart Building Alliance Luxembourg here in Luxembourg. And our mission was to promote a sustainable and intelligent transformation of the construction and urban development sector, and to have also a levy to improve the comfort of inhabitants, and also by being focused on improving the efficacy of the buildings. So we have three big, let's say, values that we share. The first one would be to get together people, so as to have many actors from different sectors, so that we have, in our idea of smart city, it can be reflected in everyday life. Today, we have 23 members of different kinds of different fields of expertise. The second value is anything that has to do with entrepreneurship. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, that said, but we want to base off ourselves from things that we have already at our disposal. For instance, the label R2S, ready to service, which which is now a certificate which is provided or awarded to the different businesses if they meet the criteria. We also work together with the SRI, the Smart the Smart Reference Indicator, which are all the programs that are still in a test phase. But our main goal at the SBA is that all of these projects that are pending and that are measured by SRI standards are implemented in the real estate. So we want also to accompany all those who want to establish projects or launch new projects, and to help them with specifications, for instance. Now, Another, and the most important value maybe, sharing, because we want all these different experts to have their opportunity to make a feedback of their assessment. So we also organize workshops so that we can show different experts the interest of investing in sustainable smart cities and sustainable buildings. And the Da Vinci project is just one of the projects that could be mentioned here, and that goes to show that we put our efforts in convincing different experts of different fields in working towards sustainable buildings. So now let's cut to the chase. What is a smart building? First off, why? What are the reasons for, or what are the benefits for smart buildings? Let's start off with an example. Mobile phone. These mobile phones have been developed in order to satisfy some basic needs, to be reachable, to be able to call, and to maybe play some games like Snake. And so during the years, we've seen the development of these, let's say, old school mobile phones to these smartphones. So now we don't only have a phone, but we literally have a computer in our pockets, and we have lots of apps that we can use. So we've changed the whole concept of it. It's not just an improvement, it's a paradigm shift. And this is also what we try to translate into building for smart buildings, which means that we want to reinvent buildings where we live at, where we work, how we sail buildings, how we provide energy, and how we manage maintenance contracts. And we want to also, at the same time, be in line with the different needs that are bound to the inhabitants. For instance, a family with 2 children has other needs than someone who's single. So we custom tailor the different services to the needs of the inhabitants. For instance, digitalization or an access to digital files of our building. Then, so why would we use that? What would that give us? So it actually provides us with a lot of systems and services. First are all the services which are centered on energy and environment. With the smart building, we can monitor energy consumption to better know how to manage it, and in order to make it more efficient. We also have services that are related to the building. So instead of being just confronted with everyday problems like ventilation problems or other technical issues, the smart buildings, the assessment of this smart building software will be able to make an assessment so as to prevent such cases or to inform different inhabitants of different issues that might come up. Then there are also services that are specified for the inhabitants. So communication services for private areas. We have also the opportunity to regulate temperature. We have the opportunity to arrange for the different purposes, like conference rooms, parking spaces, co-working spaces, relaxation areas, and so on. And so now, who is our target public? Who are our customers? Well, I'd say in the construction areas, architects, engineers, owners, and promoters. And in the operating sector, I'd say we're all somehow impacted by that. Owners, facility managers, property managers, and insurers. So we'll have to adopt new modalities, operative modalities, and that is the challenge that we want to take up with the SBA. Then the question arises, where do we start? So I've already said that the SBA wants to set up specifications which are tailored to all those who are interested in this smart buildings, and this includes a framework that is based on 6 main pillars. First off, services, then digital security and responsible management, equipments and interface, user interface, then connectivity, and at the heart of our smart building is, of course, the architectural network. Now, this reference framework has also been translated into a certificate. So we have established criterions, and according to these criterions being met or not, we will establish a score. So, thank you for your attention. I hope that now you have a better picture about our field of operation, about who SBA is. Now I'd like to also give the floor to my colleagues who will give us some feedback of their experiences in their line and their field of production. So, ICO Real Estate is a Luxembourgish promoter. We're also active in Slovakia as developer, planner, and investor. So we are a mid-size promoter, planner, developer, I mean. Our experience, as you can see, this trend has started with shaping or arranging areas, and now we are conceptualizing and designing whole neighborhoods. Now we've 145,500 square meters that we arranged in total. So our aim is to propose agile and evolving living and working spaces that respond to environmental issues, where occupiers can build and control life balance with their community. And in order to do that, we have our innovation that helps us to constantly reinvent ourselves and work towards the very best, whether energy, mobility, or the introduction of new technologies is involved. So if we introduce, for instance, systems of low CO2 emission, there we need research and development in order to operate these kinds of neighborhoods. We are also members of the SBA, so that in partnership with the Smart Building Alliance, we can count on the help of others. And this is why we've already implemented a few things, but we've also faced difficulties that I've also shared with the SBA. I've pointed out the challenges, and I suggested some solutions. So we have our own office building since 2021, and it also is very efficient. We have an energy monitoring device in our office building, and we're one of the first businesses to have this operating system on top of our enterprise, which allows us to offer more services to the inhabitants, to the residents, which relates to the comfort, which relates to the purpose of the different rooms, and it also helps improve the well-being by assessing the quality of the air. So, yeah, of course, there are profits and benefits of these services, where we have centered all the information in one place, and it's easier to then write reports. But then there's also some difficulties. There's some hindrances pertaining to the interoperability between the building techniques and with the tenants and applications. So what we want to do together with 2RS is to have a framework where we can somehow standardize the whole thing. Then also we have issues, for instance, when we have a tenant coming over from the US who has his own ideas or his own way of thinking about a smart building and wouldn't want to use our app. So we have to make sure that this added value and this this generated value can be easily understood by potential customers. And we have also to make sure that the users have no problems using our apps, our solutions. Now, we have also to find a fitting solution between the owner using the app and all those who are tenants and who rent out these buildings. So how to find this fitting model. So those are market issues where we need an increased government implication, how to apply the regulation in Luxembourg that hasn't been implemented. We can see that a similar device in France has been implemented on a governmental level and has helped make progress in increasing the value of buildings and increasing the opportunity to offer services around buildings.
Yes, hello. I am going to represent Conton. We are the owner of buildings, 16,600 square meters, so Campus Conton. We are optimizing them with all this technology for smart building. We have 5 buildings in total, and we want them to stay competitive. Therefore, we use technologies. And we are confronted with players who just have built the buildings, but we have already our buildings. Therefore, we have to show them that we understood it all and that we are present. A little bit of history here. First building was delivered in 2018, the last in 2019. That's almost old for a building. And at that point in time, they received an excellent score for build and use. I don't know if you know that. It's a certification for how to think over the building that's use. And then we have the one with the tenants, so build and use. We have both labels with the excellence term. So, but we have always owners who want to do better. That was already some who wanted to do well, and at that point in time, he wanted to put into place ventilation and air circulation system that was important before intervening heating. So that's to avoid waste. And the second, because it's optimizing the part of for the tenants of the charges, and then also when we open windows, nothing works anymore, no air conditioning, etc. That was like that, so it was something new at that point in time. I continue my history here because things evolve. We did some refurbishing. And all our tenants have to have the same level of service, the same service. And there is a difference between buildings of 2018 and 2019. We had to do some retrofit to upgrade the buildings. We did it with lots of little items like better the access control, introduce automatic lighting, etc. In 2023, we received a certification CO2 neutral. So neutral, and that was, we are very proud of this label CO2 neutral, scope 3. So, and if we want to maintain our services, we have to digitalize still more and add some other items. And we had not the means to have to do all the adequate means. So, therefore, we started digitalization with LoRaWAN, a network that we put into place. So it was actually to look at all the expenses on energy level, because what we want to do more, we have to do monitoring first. And it will end this October, and then we will be able to read all our meters and the sub-meters. That was the first step. And now we are going to upgrade it all and to go to automatic piloting system. This is to increase the internal comfort, and we are going to maximize our energy savings. That's very important. As we have already the backbone, we can add some all other factors of comfort to make sure to always improve our service. So the advantage of this networks is that you can plug in an infinite number of services. Why do we do it? For the comfort of our tenants and to keep charges for tenants low. And also to protect our investments, we have to make sure that they keep their value on the market, that we can keep them as long as possible. We have to stay attractive to be able to function, because our business is to rent offices that are really up to date with the market. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, Virginie, for this presentation. Now we give the floor to Luc. It will be a bit more technical. He will explain the impact of smart technology to a building. Morning all. Thank you for your attention. I created 5GR. It's the last of a long series of companies. The last one was in France, Belgium also. And this is to put into place a solution, a wireless solution. So we have lots of experience, and so we go ahead. Our challenge today is to make any building or city smart, and this is in less than 1 month. Why? It's quite ambitious. We are working on wireless technologies, as explained. So we spoke already about LoRaWAN system. There is a whole system allowing an easy coverage, and we look at all these elements for our buildings. So over the years, we saw that it is not only to display the results, but to be able to capture the right data and to put it in the right format. Because there are lots of protocols that is really a nightmare. Digital IT formats to translate it into the management of the buildings. It's different technical layers that are complicated. And our company worked on a middle layer to make sure the solutions can be implemented quite quickly without too much informatics. So regarding the impacts, I'm not going to go in depth in this. We will do it later in the panel. But what we did is working on a school in Belgium, and that there was lots of energy waste because of the heatings, etc., open windows. So we put into place a local system, air captors, and this with management system that's bi-directional. We put into place some heating controls and equipment for tracking so as to be able to make sure that the temperature is controlled. Best return on investment, that was in Brussels for the fountain park in Brussels. So what we did, we're putting into place a remote management of closing windows, etc. So the company that did the upkeeping did not have to go on the spot. It could be done remotely. So there are examples that are interested and that are easygoing returns on investments. What's a bit more complex is the Hospital de Bray in Paris with 1,000 rooms. And all this high comfort for the patient. The patient can control their own temperatures in their room thanks to an app with a smartphone. And that is around a whole system managing this. SNCF, we are managing all the technical system. We can also do prevention, opening windows remotely, etc. It's more sophisticated solutions because, as said Virginie previously, there are lots of possibility to capture lots of things, but the most difficult is to translate it into a technical language that is appropriate here. So saying that everything is possible does not help for the choice here. I have a last slide here that I added last minute. What's important here is to consider in a project for smart cities and buildings, it is really a professional project, not a technological project. So we should not do proof of concept with the material that is not infinite. We have to invest regarding management in this initiative. We have to transfer the know-how, the knowledge, and we have to have a team and partners that are really that have the right expertise. With CFL, with POST, so is the Commune of Tudelange, for instance, and Campus Content. Virginie told us about this. So I would be happy to answer your questions later on, and thank you for your attention. Thank you, Luc, for this presentation. The technologies do exist. They answer the problems for smart buildings and smart cities. I'm going to give the floor to Mehdi, who will talk to you about smart building and smart cities. I'm Mehdi. I am the manager of BIM Consult, a Luxembourg company set up in 2014 with the aim to bring BIM in the Luxembourg building sector. So the years go by, smart building comes, and we have to make a link between this technology and smart building. So I'm going to mention two feedbacks that are interesting. First, our buildings, and then Belgian clients. And we started with scan to BIM. It was an existing buildings. We scanned the building. We remodeled it. We rebuilt the interior of the building with existing networks, and we worked with a whole building company for this to coordinate, and we could coordinate the techniques within the building, and we had a winning situation for the management of the programs, the plans, execution plan, and from there on we come to this mock-up, a digital mock-up here, that our mission here, you see the building here. It's kind of a layer of the building. We work together with the client to modelize this system to make sure that the client understands what goes ahead in this building. And the client does not want to interact with the client. They just want to consult the different elements. We give them the possibility to do it. Here, for instance, look here, we have the management of the building, for instance. We have to know that there was the whole stock, the inventory to be made, all the maintenance also. And we combined it all, maintenance, stock, etc. Here, for instance, we have our offices. It was an old building, and that's interesting here. It's also possible to put some probes into old buildings, and we have to monitor temperatures in this way. We have also humidity captures. We have different possibilities to visualize this here. You can see it, because we have to put a human element in the middle of everything. We are no robots here. Can you remember Amazon? They proposed dash buttons that was next to your coffee machine. You would push a button and order coffee at Amazon. Here, the buttons are to say, it's too cold, it's too hot. And we are trying to put this into place to compare the data that we had for the smart building and to put some human elements so that we can combine both. So what we still have to do, because it's an ongoing project, is energy simulation and optimization. It will soon come to make sure the efficiency of the building goes up. So we are all on the same wavelength here. And then also we have to think about implementation of real-time management. That's not yet the case. So it's about exchanging information. So that's it for me. Thank you, Mehdi. This shows that in Luxembourg we can also put together expedite the data. Now it's Rudy that I'm going to introduce to you. He's going to propose a few solutions for smart buildings. Rudy Cash is working for different companies, BRUNATA, eTrash, etc. group, and it is for Luxembourg here. I'm going to speak up, okay? I'm going to really give some elements of the field regarding smart buildings. We have captures in the buildings. So far, they were not working remotely. We have to go to the spot. And now it's changed, of course. There are lots of products that can be used remotely. Different counters for intelligent trash cans, for instance. I'm starting with those. We have the product called eTrash. It was a company created 8 years ago. It should allow buildings to get rid of the problems regarding the waste. We have a lot of waste quantity, the biggest in Europe and almost in the entire world. So that's the people have to do a selective waste management. So this is for buildings with different apartments. Most people agree to work on this, but some don't do it. Even some would break the devices so as not to pay. But in average, people use it correctly, and in lots of buildings, it's working well. So we make sure they get very robust, and it's difficult to get them in and out. So we have to have some guys who really have enough muscles to do it. So it's in general subcontracted to other companies. This is all problems that we have to do for common spaces. Now it's about third generation products. We have captors that are incorporated, and that's also ordered by communes. Now it's smart because the consumption will be shown through captors, and it's also able to make the management of the waste. The trucks do not come every week. We can plan this, and some communes in Luxembourg, they want this. We have this law of polluter payer in Luxembourg. I put a whole article here. What's interesting is that despite this law, the demand is not higher. Rather the contrary. Why? Everybody would say it's not my responsibility. It's the law about polluter payer, but the consumer does not always want to pay. The managers of the building are not dynamic enough, and there is no control of the commune. So despite the law, it's not working that well. But we have other means as company managers to make things evolve. For instance, here we have a project. It's the Jazz residence in Belval. We have the before and after situation. Once implemented, we need less space, half of waste bin here, and we have the space to put water or something else. I show the different elements here, and what interests people most, and it's difficult in buildings for people living in apartments. It's important. There are lots of these people. We see here that since we have the product eTrash since 2018, we have a reduction in waste in years. So you can see the attitude of consumer is getting better. Everybody helps bettering things. Taxes get higher and higher. If we look at only the expenditure, it gets getting higher, but the quantity is going down. Second project now.
So here you can see all the different meters, smart meters, which we can integrate in different applications. So sometimes because of economical reasons or because there's some criteria and standards that have to be met, there is some need for some validation first. So we want to roll out different kinds of meters to see which one would be the most smoke. Okay. Smoke detectors. So these are things that are more and more common in condominiums and in co-partnerships. And the problem is to manage all these data we have. So we have a recent legislation that actually makes it compulsive to be equipped with these smoke detectors. In Luxembourg, we are also working on defining a mandatory framework that is relative to the fiber connection, as we have this transition going to fiber connection. And there are also European laws on the consumption, so we need to get to the very accurate data of consumption. So these actually applies to any kind of consumption, be it resources, energy, but also resources that are needed for treating the waste, for instance. All of these informations are captured and stored in order to improve the system of management. So if we're talking about waste management, we can optimize waste collection rounds, and which allows for more space also to free up space. We'll also improve and be in line with different energy consumption peaks. We also have different kinds of emergency levels that are associated with the different parameters and thresholds. Now we have to go a bit further. We have to provide information to the users. So this is a very easy app. That's a mobile app. And you can, by the way, you can go way more in depth. But here you can see that regulations and needs are more on trend or are more important on a monthly usage. So in other words, users and consumers are more interested in their monthly usage than in their overall usage on a year. So we will adapt to further developments in this realm. Here you can see another issue. I was talking about co-ownership. So this is a dashboard where we can regulate consumption. So for instance, someone who would have clocked 2 times by error, so this would be corrected, and we could enter values which are more accurate. And now the real problem is, how much do I pay? I could have the best business model, the best technologies I can. Then the question is, okay, how much does it cost, and what and how do I benefit from that? So What is also interesting to users is that we all have this data that are stored on servers. These servers have to be high, have to be on a high level security and be in line with European law. Though there's some examples of the different means of using this in Luxembourg. Thank you, Rudi, for this presentation. So we can conclude that we have the technologies and we have also the actors. We've talked about smart buildings. And now we are going to talk about more of the engineering part of this. So I'm working with Schröder and Associés, and in the presentations we've seen how important these sensors and captures devices are. So now together we'll take a look at how to define those data in order to define a strategy for each area. So we know we have to reduce our CO2 emissions. This is a set goal for 2030, and the European Union has also come up with regulations and thresholds to reach this goal. So Schröder and Associés, we're more concerned with loading stations and efficacy of energy. So we're actually accompanying our clients with our sustainable action plan. So this is a method which integrates all the goals of 2030, for instance, sustainability, and couples it with excellence. And we have developed a tool with our digitalization department. So here you have mapped out all the different buildings in 3D, and as you can see, these buildings have different colors from red to green, which identify their CO2 emissions. I guess it's rather understandable. Red is bad and green is better, so to say. So if we zoom in, we have a real ID card of the building with different parameters per building. Here we can see the CO2 emissions of the building as of now, in this moment, and then the CO2 emissions of the building once it has been refurbished. But we can also identify savings that were made, financial savings that were possible due to the refurbishment of the building. So here we're talking about 1,000 euros a year that we could save. And we have also integrated the solar energy capacity of the buildings and have fed the geographic information system with that. So now we can match all these different datas and select by type of building and by age of building, but what is the most interesting here are all the filters that we can, or the filters that we can apply to filter down. Now, if we chose registered or earmarked buildings, there you see the dashboard is being actualized, and we've done that on 5 municipalities in the south of the country. And then we have a table that gives us results of the average peak consumptions, so we can define automatized calculations. So here we have 16 gigawatt an hour. So we can see that with the data that we get out of the building data, we can define strategies to implement or to ease the installation of solar panels, for instance. So, hello everyone. My name is Audrey von Borto, and I'm engineer with Schröder and Associés. So, pertaining to my feedback, I would like to talk about the smart grid. So before we start with smart buildings, we need a smart infrastructure. So we've worked on a pilot project where we've had a fiber optic coverage grid in Berdorf, and where we've analyzed the consumption. So the first goal is the improved connectivity for every resident of the commune so as to achieve 100% fiber optic coverage. So in order to do that, we've set up a working group. We've made an analysis of the existing infrastructure, and we drew up a roadmap for targeted actions in order to help the connectivity in Berdorf. So these working group, so Schröder and Associés, and 3 others, so Post and Creos. Why have we chosen those 2 partners? Because they were the first actually showing interest in working together, because in order to install optical fiber, you have also to have the resources to make all this construction work. And these 2 businesses are able to provide this. Then we also wanted to integrate in our working tool geographic information systems. We work with a map in which all the different data is indicated, the different plots, the different number of buildings by surface, as well as all the pre-existing infrastructure and infrastructure that we forecast our intention. And so we analyze this data, which allows us to establish a roadmap, as you can see. So we started off with the center of Berdorf, and we've analyzed in 4 phases. So we are closing phase 1, and what has been the most difficult in this project is to gather everyone and to really kick off with the work. Because sometimes some partners, I have to say, are risk aversive and want to be sure that all permits are gathered to begin with building and constructing. Anyway, we had opportunities then to meet up, set a fixed date, and kick off the work. Thank you. So I'd suggest, if ever you have questions remaining for our panel speakers, you can scan this QR code and you'll be able to enter your questions. These questions will be then screened here, And we will then try to answer these questions. We also have questions for the attendees here. So our questions to you: how can we improve our skills to convince operators in Luxembourg? Which are the projects that could be undertaken in Luxembourg in order to show the added value of smart building? So that also implies or encompasses different levels: municipal level, business level. So this technology can be rolled out on different levels, which of course includes different fields of expertise. So the question is how to reach those different actors. Now, I'd like you to have your questions asked so that I can screen them, air them. Okay, so I'd just like to take this opportunity to underpin something. We see that at the core of smart building, data is the most important. It is complicated to have systems which have a interoperability. That, for instance, for the GIS, we have data that we can combine or model with other data in order to maximize efficacy or efficiency of the system. So that is something really important and at the core of our question here. I think Luxembourg, although be it a small country, could be an advantage because we all know the actors, and that allows or simplifies the exchange possibilities, because we have, for instance, now a panel that would be able to launch a project for a smart building construction. So we are ready also to take up even bigger projects on European level. Now, it's important for us to show to everyone what we are already able to do in Luxembourg compared to other countries. And it would be a first step to, implement a more linked up system. So what we are able to do now in Luxembourg has to be also translated into other projects which do not remain at a prototype level, but that become everyday live projects, and that we can then really say that we are generating all the conditions for smart buildings. So today we're a few actors that have gathered together. We are not used to publicly react to offers that are or to public offers. Yes, as has been said, we are a few actors, and we are also actors who have their European integrated partners. So we have some knowledge, some know-how about it on the European level. And we also have partners which never have operated on that level. But nevertheless, we should help each other where we can, or complement each other to accept or to take up offers. So solutions pertaining to European standards. So how to retrieve data. So can you hear me? Good. Okay. So the Luxembourg is in line with all the EU regulation. There are many regulations. I've just shown a few. So actors are really aware of them and make sure to respect them. Some countries are already ahead of us. For instance, in Germany, you have a better information of the added value, the measurement of added value in smart building, the equipments. And in Belgium, we have Flandern, which is better equipped than Wallonie or Brussels. And in France, we also have a difference between the north and the south, and that is simple to explain. In the south, it's not as important to manage heat, for instance, as it is in the north. Now, again, in Luxembourg, all our actions are consistent with the EU regulations. The project that I have presented are all made in Luxembourg, and all of the products and services are services produced in Europe, a few of them in Germany and some in Eastern Europe as well.
We spoke about compatibility with legislation and regulations. We can also speak about competitivity of data, because to make sure all that these systems work together, we need a common language. And first, we have to have a network to be able to transport data. Once this is chosen, we have to have the possibility to make sure that the different captors, that they are aligned to each others and speak the same technical language. And that's very complex. So on the market, there are different tools that can do these translations in two directions of the protocols, and to make sure they are added to the existing solutions, so as to create a roadmap of the smart building. So it's a different layer, but it's not the most sexy layer, but it's an important layer. So Rudy, you talked about the reduction of the place for the smart waste bins, for instance. Yeah, in the communes, they would ask for some products for personal use also. There are some producers that are interesting ecologically. There is no constraint for the place, the space, except the technical constraints. Do we have interactions on this subject with the greater region or the neighboring city? Maybe Mickaël can answer this question. SBA Luxembourg is an initiative, as said. It comes from France. In France, there is also one. But we have not yet any links with cross-border cities. But via SBA France, we could get into contact with this kind of services on other territories. We could draw some parallels there. So it's interesting to see that SBA France is present in international projects. So we are also here pooling the different players, different partners within one consortium. That's interesting. What's the reaction of the property managers regarding the management of the buildings? I'm going to give you my feedback regarding myself as a developer. I would invest into the technologies, implement them in a building. It has to allow a better efficiency for the property manager. And Rudy showed us there was a reporting table with all the data regarding consumptions for the different departments. But the building manager cannot reduce the different elements. So because there is the problem of the charges for the tenants that are getting higher. So we have to have tools to optimize the manager's work. It's helping with change management. Yes, the property manager has a role to play to implement the tools because it's the person who will use the tool. So today in Luxembourg, except in campus content, most companies, they use reporting that is quite complicated. So AI needs to be used to have the efficiency measured, but it's much more complicated than the previous system. And here we need people to be accompanied, a real change management implementation. And we have to show how to better work. That's something that we need to put in place. What's the obligations of reporting on European level for apartments and offices? For instance, applying the EPBD regulation in Luxembourg. Anybody wants to talk about this? Indeed, today the implementation has not yet been done. I do regret it nowadays because what apartments are concerned, we still wait for an implementation. Since January 22, all the tenants have to benefit from this data of their energy consumptions, of their own data regarding this. They have to get this, but as long as the regulation has not yet been mandatory, the individual consumptions are not given to the different tenants. Sometimes it comes really 1 year later. And we are late regarding the implementation in this field. It's a concern for the consumption, but also for the implementation of the technologies. I'd like to add regarding your comment that the consumptions, the regulations, you have to know we as owners, we have also a role to play. If we want to better up the situation, we have also to say maybe the property management does not want to change their habits, but we'd like to have the energy data, for instance. And maybe you should make sure that somebody comes and installs the technology over weekends. And we put in place new KPIs. There is some reluctance in the beginning. Everybody wants to work in their own area, but now they know what is to be done. And we can, by implementing these systems, we can tell the tenants how much they would consume and give them all their data. It's a question of implementation of habit also, but we are going to push so that they will implement and so that it will get a habit. I discovered yesterday that SRI had to be will be mandatory as of 2026 for buildings of a certain size. It comes quickly, So therefore, it's important to improve the competences, the skill sets. So therefore, the question is how to integrate such a product so that all of us in SBA and to help the players how to make sure that everything is being implemented. In the beginning, it's difficult, but how are we going to develop this? So there is already an awareness in Luxembourg regarding our capacities. The technologies do exist. How should we implement them? That's the question. So we have already an efficiency that exists. We concentrated ourselves on the thermic efficiency. So it was done through the buildings, by building works and construction methods. Yeah. Another question maybe for Mehdi regarding the BEAM app.
Et est-ce que c'est utilisé aussi dans le projet de rénovation? Quelle application? La BIM app, donc je suppose que c'était
que j'ai montré à l'instant.
Montré la BIM.
Oui, donc c'est je donne le nom de l'application. Vous voulez savoir le nom de l'application qui a été utilisée? Donc là, j'ai travaillé moi avec les outils de chez Autodesk qui sont basés sur l'API Forge, et l'outil s'appelle Autodesk Tandem, où on peut lire directement un IFC ou directement une maquette Revit. Dans le cas que je vous ai montré, c'est des maquettes Revit qui sont directement uploadées sur le cloud, et à partir de là, on va faire les connexions avec les différentes API et aussi faire aussi l'inventaire des objets qui s'y trouvent dans la maquette numérique. Voilà.
Donc Umberto, vous avez posé la question: which policy measures would you like to see implemented? Urbanization of existing buildings. Ce sont.
This is the measures I would say to implement European measures that make sure for us to be able to improve our skill set. I think it's the objective of the association to raise awareness. And indeed, so an anonymous person asked a question. The new buildings are very energy economical. So how to make sure that to implement such a remote control with the nowadays prices? I believe these buildings, when they are hyper equipped, they can be efficient during some time, and then quite often there's a degradation. There are new items that are put in place, and you have to bear in mind the cost that is involved. In Luxembourg, there is money. Many technologies are used that are quite safe, but there is not only the financial side, there is also the comfort of users and the conformity with the regulations. And so we talked about European regulations. There should be a real obligation to make an adequate reporting. That's not always in place. And as a question, quite a challenge.
Is provided to facility managers and tenants to make sure they are not overwhelmed with data that they will never use.
How do you inform these people, these facility managers? It's progressive. First, there is the step to put everything in place, and then we do this step bottom up we have different buildings, 5 buildings, for instance, and we did one building after the other. So for the facility manager, it was easy because first one building, and then the person could actually adapt to the situation. There was also a training about the reporting that was possible to be made. And we have a hotline if there are questions. And now we are going to inject our data into their system. There is also the question of interoperability. Yes, the target is that they have everything in one single place. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile. And it takes a bit of time. But if you do it in a progressive manner, a lot of reluctancies are going to be eliminated. How do you see the process of concept of the buildings? What should be the evolution so as to integrate the smart solutions from the beginning? That's actually indeed the question to be asked. If we have the idea of the smart building, there is no longer conception by silos. We have to have transversal conceptions, and all the partners, they have to be federated around a common objective. They should not only work for their own interest, it's a common project. So we have, for instance, BAU team. They group all the players in the beginning of the building phase so as to make the best choices from the beginning. And that's it, make the best choices from the beginning so that everything, putting in place all the elements and the building is done smoothly. That not after some time it is said the heating professionals, they put one system, the others another one, and how should we work together? And then, of course, in such a case, there will be difficulties if we do not conceive the different system to be able to work together. So now, from the beginning, we say which system should the electrician use. There should be an interoperability, but 100%. Not that just one data will be used. Now, they have to sit down around the table at the beginning of the project and plan together. So it's the organization system that needs to be changed from scratch. Also, within SBA, we have a working group so as to find out which project mode we should implement so as to be efficient. For instance, we have a specification sheet that is a kind of a template. Yes, this is to help the partners that are new in this field. Because if you want to make a smart building in the beginning, there is some fear to meet some problem, and we have to put in place some systems and tools that can make the whole system, the whole process more fluid. And we have this European consortia, so to be able to see what is done in other countries. I'm sure there is method in place that function quite well. Maybe what we can do
could be part of.
So would you like to show the questions on our screen now? Do you think of any project? That's one of the questions. We have lots of proposals for this question. There's one proposal.
SBA as provider of a pilot building, tech companies deploying their equipment, engineers for monitoring and methodological standardization organization. Other LUX or EU partners could either use the data generated for assessment optimization or provide innovative to be tested. Merci pour cette proposition. Est-ce que la personne peut peut-être...
So could this person maybe clarify the question? So that was somehow a closing word from us, because for me, because it sums up our common vision, and it goes to show that the different field of expertise can be integrated in smart building and SRI in pilot projects. And it's more of a sum up, and we actually could move on to the other suggestions. Can you scroll up, please? So we have a question pertaining to the project model buildings, the test phases of the RSI in Luxembourg. So we have an exchange SRI. Maybe the person in question could come forward and be explain that a bit more. So I'd like to. Okay.
The Netherlands. Actually, the current SRI gives information on quality of life, about the potential of flexibility of the building, but it doesn't actually allow you to use the building to steer the demand response of the building yet. So next stage would for me be, if you have the capability of knowing the flexibility of your building, that you really start using it, and that would be a very nice thing to do actually with well, the people here on the desk. And I really think we should do that either on European level, but since we're also Benelux, I would like to do it that way. But really to go for the next stage, so being aware of what the SRI is, and then really go for the next step. So open to discuss that.
Okay, thank you.
En anglais ou en français.
So are there any opinions pertaining to the flexibility of housing? Maybe talking about the grid that has been mentioned, the quality of the buildings, but also the quality of the network itself. So, in order to deepen this topic of smart grid, what does it look like in Luxembourg now concerning flexibility in the building, besides technology, but meaning more in flexibility regarding the regulation and the regulatory framework? So I'm not an expert in this field, but we have found or established that the market for loading stations are more or less monopolized. There is more or less one big enterprise, one big business, and there's another small business that just offers its services in its own municipality. So this is a market in Luxembourg which is not really competitive, to put it this way. I think that this is the main problem.
Reloading station.
So I would like also to point out that we have improved our score during this year, and also looking at the regulatory framework for management, this might come up again when there is a research project that will maybe be taken on. So, do you have any actors to work in European projects, actors on vegetation or from this field of expertise? Well, from what I know, we do not have, but we have an expert in everything related to water and water consumption. Because, you know, our job is not to supervise, we're more a consulting team, but we would link up this expertise with this expertise and this knowledge of vegetation with the smart grid. Another accurate question: what are the actions you intend to undertake in the years to come? So, yeah, it would be good to conclude with a plan to illustrate it. Yes, this is also the reason why we gathered here. It is to launch concrete projects, feasible projects, to identify together with you fields which can be, or which are potentials for our smart cities. So we have identified actors. So some of the actors will join the SBA. We are also training different actors on the matter of smart building in order to give actors the set of skills that is relative to smart building, to the different parameters and KPIs you need to improve the comfort at home. So as I said, we've set out to visit a few buildings in the next month to see how the progress has, or which progress has been achieved. And then, well, we should go step by step, set goals that are realistic. And we, well, as I said, we would like to act as a consortium and implement. Tangible projects. So, can we link service standards to the reporting standards of the businesses? Could you be a bit more precise or exhaustive on that question? So I wanted to clarify. All businesses have to establish a financial report and also an environmental report. I wanted to draw attention to the fact that we do not only have to think about the energy aspect of it, but also more of the economic and environmental aspect of it. I think that this could actually be a matter that could be managed by a working group. So, as I said, we cannot do all kinds of different actions. We have to be focused on what we do. This, what you just said, can be undertaken a second step. We first have to remove the brakes that are hindering, for instance, to make the to ease up the redaction of specifications and so on. And I also think that reporting today for big asset managers have challenges pertaining to these reporting, and this equipment of smart buildings is actually helpful to them in order to give a feedback on data. If you just have 2 to 3 assets, well, that's not really worth it. You just have to have a lot of assets for you to benefit from this kind of technology, and that would also enable you to make some savings. So that's another way to manage all this data, building data. So that's one of the first tools. The first ways we could use it is to not only save money for new buildings, but also to have the buildings equipped with the devices that are useful to the reporting. I'd like to circle back to this question. There are already in Britain, for instance, businesses who certify CO2 emissions, which these emission standards are important in order to be in line with different CSSR regulations and so on. So this is something we also intend to do here, but we would have to have an economic model that works, and we can only have this model if we have all the sensors needed and if we have identified the needed parameters and captors. So how to accelerate this process? So we can define first on the scale of a territory, but we can also break it down to a surface of buildings. For instance, a plant, for instance, a production plant, a production site. This can all be broken down in different stages. So we have to first prioritize the different actions. This is our goal that we have to set. And visualization also allows to enthuse actors to join us, because reports are in themselves some boring things with just figures. But if you can really visualize the effect, the impact that these improvements have, you can have a quicker. You can quicker tap into the interests of potential actors. So we are just over the important time. Thank you for being here. I hope to meet you again to meet you again soon when we have new projects starting.